For this project I'm using Freedom Wool by Twice of Stamford. So what you need to do is look for a similar ball band tension, and note that in stockinette stitch this uses a 10mm needle. Cast on 200 stitches with your circular needle. In my case, just for casting on and casting off purposes, I'm using a slightly smaller needle, so I'm using a 10mm needle, and for the remaining pattern in between I'm upping to a 15mm circular needle. So after you've cast on those 200 stitches, get your 15mm needle, and we're going to introduce colour B. This will be the right side. I'm just preparing by entering into the back of the next 2 stitches. Now I'm getting my colour B. So we're going to now knit 2 together through the back of the loops and release 1 stitch from the left needle, leaving the second remaining. And when we join yarns we may have to just keep tugging initially till the pattern starts to emerge. And we're going to repeat that sequence throughout the entire row. So we're knitting 2 together through the back of the loops and releasing 1 stitch, keeping the other, and again knitting 2 together through the back of the loops, releasing 1 stitch, retaining the other, knitting 2 together through the backs, releasing 1 stitch and keeping the other. And what I may do, I don't like to commit with knots until I've got a finished piece of work that's off the needles. All I do is just do a single little knot that you can adjust as you're knitting, and then at the end I will double knot it and I will darn in the ends. That's my preference. So let's keep on with the row, knitting 2 together through the back of the loops. Once you're down to your very last stitch, which we're about to do here, we can just work into the back of that last stitch like so. So that's row 1 completed. We can now turn the work and work the wrong side. Row 2, a wrong side row, still using colour B, purl 2 together but release 1 stitch from the left needle, retain the other, and repeat that throughout the entire row until the last stitch. Purl 2 together, release a stitch. And notice as I'm working, I'm forming my stitch on the width of the right needle, the full width, to ensure I get a fairly even tension. And I'm using my index finger along with the tip of the left needle. Those things help me to manipulate the stitches. So carry on until the end of the row. Let's jump to the end of the row now and deal with that last stitch. And down to the last 2 stitches, purling 2 together, releasing 1, down to the last stitch and just purling that. And then I will adjust again my little knots if necessary. As long as you keep your stripes in pairs, i.e. working rows 1 and 2, you'll get these lovely stripes, and you can experiment with how wide these stripes are, for example by creating 4 rows of herringbone stitch in a different colour. So you want to experiment with that. So I am going to just join colour C in like so, knitting through the backs of the loops as a row 1. And I'm just going to give these a bit of encouragement and a bit of a tug. Again, just carrying on, working through the backs of those stitches with colour C. So at the end of a row 1, don't forget to knit through the back of the loop of that last stitch. So if we turn the work, we can begin row 2, a wrong side row. And again, it's a matter of purling 2 together and releasing a stitch. And keep going with that repeat throughout the entire row. Coming to the end of row 2, purling that last stitch. This is the progress so far. As you can see, look, 2 rows of pink, 4 rows of dark pink, 2 rows of light pink, 2 rows of dark blue, and then I'm repeating back again, so I'm going to do 2 rows of light pink, 4 rows of dark pink, 2 rows of light pink again. So I'm ready to cast off now, and I'm going to use colour A, the blue colour. I'm also going down a needle size. I'm using 10mm needles here to cast off. We're going to do so in pattern, so preparing the work by going into the backs of the stitches, and with my correct colour working into the back of those stitches and slipping one off. We do that again, knitting through the backs, slipping 1 stitch off. And now we've got 2 stitches on the right needle, we can cast off as we go along. So basically just binding off in pattern. Again, working through the backs of the loops, casting off. Work through the backs of the loops, slipping one off, then with the right needle casting off at the same time.